Okay, Mel, here we go. Let's see if I can get this, show this to you properly. Okay. What you're making is a scarf, and the pattern that you're using, or I should say the pattern of the fabric you're making, because first of all, knitting is a fabric, or you're making a fabric. So you're doing what machines do today to create your fabric, so that you can make things out of it. You can fold it, you can do whatever, okay? When you're doing this stitch right here, this is called stockinette. And stockinette is, your majority of your pieces will have this stockinette stitching. The front looks like this, and here's you see this is your fabric. The front looks like this, and these V's, oh, you can see it. See that the V there? That is the knit side of your fabric. Okay? When you turn your fabric over, you see all these little bumps, all these little rods. These are all the stitches. This is the back side of your stockinette stitch. And this is called the purl side, or the wrong side. Okay? So, first of all, I want to show you, see, stockinette will roll. It's just the nature of the fabric. It's good for making sweaters, and when you piece the sweaters together, or you sew the sweaters together, for instance, this side, I'm going to say, is one piece of material that you've maybe your sleeve or the other side of a sweater. And then when you bring it together, you do like when you're sewing, you bring it together, and then you're going to eventually sew these seams together here, so that when you, turn it right side out, you have nice seams and nothing shows. Okay, so that's the stockinette. That's what's called a stockinette stitch. Now, when I asked you if you were knitting a row and then purling a row, this is what you're doing. You're making this by knitting a row and then purling a row. Now let me show you what I mean by that. Let's get out my knitting here that I started to show, so I could show you. Okay, see right now, this is the purl side of your work. And if you turn your needle, whoops, fumble fingers. Okay, turn your needle, then this is the stockinette, or the knit side of your needles. Okay, so I ended with the knit side, and I'm going to turn my material here, and I'm going to do a purl row. Okay, so when I asked you if you were knitting and then purling, and you said you're purling all the time, you're not purling all the time. So here's a purl. Okay, this is the purl stitch. You're gonna, which you already know, is you're inserting from the top. Here's the stitch here. You're inserting from the top of the stitch, okay? And the yarn is in front of your work, okay? So here's your stitch. I don't know whether you could see that. Okay, here's your yarn. It's in front, okay? So, first of all, you know how to hold your yarn. You usually put it through your pinky and your ring finger there, okay, and then feed it like this and hold it like this. That's my preferred method. Okay, so you're going to purl. You're going to go in from the top. Yarn in front is here. You're going to put it around the needle, and then you're going to go under and out and pull it through over the needle. That's a purl stitch. In, around, out. In, around, out. Let's see if I can get closer to the in, oops, around the needle, and out. Now what I'm doing here, this is a purl stitch. This is the purl, okay? So we're going to go across, and your tension depends on how tight you hold this here in your hand, this thread, the main thread, and how tight you're using your needles. Okay, So you don't want to be forcing this under here. You want to have enough slack that it goes gently. So you see I'm pulling this with my finger. That's just keeping the tension on the thread, on the yarn. Okay? And we're going to do that again. And that just helps to give your pieces the same tension, so that it stretches the same, and you don't have, when it stretches, you don't have big loops and big holes in your work. Okay? So you can see I'm stretching the work as I'm opening it. I'm opening it and stretching it. Okay? So that's a purl. Now, and I went in from the top, and my yarn is at the front of my work. Okay? So now I'm going to turn my work. Okay, I'm going to flip my work, and now I'm on the front of the pattern, or the front of the sweater, or the front of the scarf. And now we're going to knit. So this is where knitting and purling. You've always heard the knit one, purl one, knit one, purl two, whatever. This is knitting. What I just showed you was purling. And when you do knit one, purl two, and knit one, purl one, that's called making a ribbing. And that's something that I'll show you later if you want, or if we can get together and I can give you a few pointers or whatever. Okay? So now that we're at the front, our yarn is now, if you look at the needle on here, our yarn is now to the back, or the purl side of the work. Okay, can you see that? It's at the back of it. So when we're looking at it front, the yarn is back here. Okay. So now we're going to go do a knit stitch. This is called knitting. Now this is where the knitting comes in. You're going to go in under the thread here, under the stitch. Again, you're going to hold your yarn the same way, and you're going to just loop over that, come down, under, and out. That's called the knit stitch. So when I asked you if you were knitting all your stitches, or if you were purling all your stitches, this is what I was talking about. When you're on the front, you're knitting, okay, and when you're on the back, you're purling. Okay, so this is, let me go through this, and then I'm going to show you something. So you're going to just knit all your stitches across, which you are obviously doing. And like I said before, what you are getting, the curling you are getting, is the nature of the material that you're making. It's normal to have that curling. You can see that my fabric is curling here. See? It's starting to curl up like that. Now when it comes off the needle, it'll curl in too. See, it'll start to curl in here. Let me put this down and see if I could show you. Okay. You see right here how it's starting to curl over? See that? That's the nature of the fabric. And when you put it this way, you could see it starting to curl up here. That's normal. That's what's going to happen to this type of a stitch. This is called stockinette. It's the stitch that you're going to use most often in a lot of your knitting. Okay? Don't get upset. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay? When you finish your project, there are a number of different ways. When you're making a sweater especially, you're going to do what's called blocking. And that's where your piece is off the needles. You're completely, you've cast off all your stitches, and your piece is off the needle and no longer working, and you're getting ready to put a piece together. Okay, you're going to block it first so that you have nice straight edges. And that's something else you'll get into later on down the road. For a scarf, it's not always going to happen, especially if you're doing a stockinette stitch like this, okay? So, you can see that it's normal to curl, so don't panic. Don't flip out. You're not doing anything wrong. Now, there are a number of ways to make a scarf with stockinette stitch so that it does not curl. You can make a scarf in the round. In other words, you're making a tube scarf. So basically, it's usually used with a lighter weight yarn, and it's smaller stitches, and it takes much longer to knit. But what you're basically end up doing is you're making a tube, and then what you do is you lay that tube out flat, and then you take the ends that are open. You know, you're going to have an open-ended, here, let me get the other. You're going to have a tube like this, okay? You're going to end up with a tube if you do it in a circle. And what's going to happen then is you're going to probably take these two ends and you're going to close them up, and then you're going to put your tassels or whatever, your fringe down here, and on the other end of the scarf, fringe over here. And then it's a more stable fabric, and it'll lay nice, and you know, it'll be like a scarf that you bought in the store. Okay? To do a scarf, like most people do a scarf, which is to knit stockinette and have it like this, it will always curl on you like this. It's the nature of the fabric. It will never not curl. When they knit things in the stores and such, and that's all done with machines, it's done with tight stitching and here and there, and they change the gauge, and so don't get upset. You're doing fine. Now, there's a number of ways you can fix the problem, but it adds pattern to your piece, okay? And that is to add a row, two stitches on this side, 2 stitches on this side, and a border here and here of either a pearl, yarn, or a ribbing of some sort. Okay, and that's the only way you're going to get it to lay super flat. So what you can do, for instance, well, let me get through, let me do this purl row, because I want to start on a knit side to show you. So let's do a purl row real quick here. And once I get this purl row done here, I've only got 15 stitches on the needle right now, just to make a little swatch to show you. Now you got to watch when you put your needle. I almost just did it just now. When you run your needle across here, you got to be careful that you don't split your yarn. Okay. Sometimes I do that, and because I'm moving so fast, I don't realize that I've split my yarn, and it can be a big problem. But of course now I can't force myself to split. So anyway. The best way to keep it from curling on the edges, on the outside edges here, so I've got 15 stitches on here, is to take the 2 stitches here and the 2 stitches here and make those a different pattern, okay? 2 or 4, anywhere between 2 and 4 stitches. Let's say we do 3 on each end, okay? So we're going to do 3 here and 3 here, and that's going to make a border on our scarf. So the first one, the first side you're going to do, you're doing your knitting side, you're just going to knit all the way across, okay? This is the easiest way to fix the problem. And you're just going to knit all the way across. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to keep that curl out of the way so I can show you. My arms are starting to hurt really bad. I've got arthritis real bad, and in my hands and arms, and after a while they hurt a little bit. But anyway, so I slow down. I tend to slow down when I'm knitting. Okay, so I just did the knit side. I'm going to flip it over and do the purl side. But, now here's the but. For these first 3 stitches, I'm going to knit on the purl side. Okay? And then, after I do those 3 stitches, I'm going to bring the yarn to the front, and I'm going to purl like normal. Okay, come on, fingers. Okay, we're coming down to, this is going to be the last stitch here. Purl that one. Now we've got the last 3 stitches on this side. We're going to bring the yarn to the back again, and we're going to knit it again. Knit the last 3 stitches. Now what you're doing is you're creating a border on your scarf. So now we're going to flip it, and again we're going to knit all the way across. Now you could do this, you know, in whatever way you want, but this is the way I prefer to do it, okay? This is the easiest way to fix the curling problem with something like a scarf, okay? The other thing you can do is what's called, oops, see, did you see that thread that I caught there? That was, I would have split the thread that way, so I don't want to do that. So let's keep going here. The other thing you can do is what's called a seed stitch, but that's a little bit more down the line when you're learning new stitches, which eventually you'll get bored with doing this, or you'll, whoops, what did I do? Oh, wait a minute, there we go. So, what I just did was I backed out of a stitch, that's all. So, let me show it to you. All right, I had stitched too many, and I went one too far. I need 3 stitches here. I went one too far, so I'm backing out of the stitch. So I grab the stitch that I just made, and I pull it up, and then I remove that thread. That's just backing out of a stitch. You don't do that very often, but if you go 1 stitch too many, that's what you can do, is just back out of the stitch, okay? So then I've got my last 3 stitches, and I'm still going to knit all the way across. So I'm going to knit these last 3 stitches also. So now we're going into, now I don't know whether you could see this, but can you see where the pattern is changing here? Let me see if I could show it to you. Okay. If you see, you see these 3 little bumps right here? And then you've got the knit row, and then you've got these 3 little bumps right here. That's where you're starting the new pattern. Okay? So now we're going to go on the purl side. Remember, the first 3 stitches are always knit. So 1, 2, 3. Now, you're going to go back, bring your yarn forward between the 2 needles, and you're going to purl to the last 3 stitches. Purl across to the last 3 stitches. I hope you can see this. My cell phone isn't great, but I hope you can see this, what I'm doing. And I'm coming down, this is going to be my last 3 stitches here. Okay? So these last 3 stitches we're going to knit. So we're going to bring the yarn to the back of the needles, and then knit those 3 stitches. Okay? Alright, so now you're seeing a different kind of stretch in your pattern, in your fabric. If you turn it around, you're starting to see a a new pattern emerging on your yarn. So now we're going to knit all the way across again, and then we're going to do the on the purl side. We're going to do the knit 3 and then purl across to the last 3 and then knit 3. So let me make a little bit of this. I'm going to pause it here. Okay, I'm back. I just want to show you this, that I've created. What I've created here is a border here and here on the outside of the scarf to help to prevent it from curling. And what this is called a garter stitch, okay? And basically this edging here is called a garter stitch, is just constant knit, 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 knit all the way up. okay, on both sides. So you're going to knit this side, you're going to knit this side for the first 3 stitches. Then you're going to either knit the rest of them in. When you're on the front of the fabric, you're going to knit these 3, and then you're going to continue to knit all the way across to these 3, and then you're going to knit those 3. And then when you turn it over to the purl side, what you're going to do is you're going to knit these 3, you're going to purl, 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 purl all the way across to the last 3, and you're going to knit those 3. So the edging is always a knit. The last 3 are always knit, no matter what side you're on, okay? So when I was asking you if you knit a row, then purl a row, this is you knit a row, you turn your piece, and you purl a row, okay? So to make it flat, and you can see that it's already working. So, for instance, you see the regular stockinette stitch down here, how it's curling around. You can see it curling around here, but you can see how adding that stockinette stitch, or the, I'm sorry, not stockinette stitch, adding the garter stitch for the first 3 and the last 3 stitches is creating, you can already see how it's laying flatter here. It's not curling around like this is. And if I turn it around, you can see it better, a little bit better. You can see where this is curling here on the edge, but where I've started the garter stitch, it's starting to lay flat, okay? Now I'm going to cast off of these, and I'm going to show, well, let me purl a row first. We're going to do the first 3 are going to be knitted. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to purl across. Purl. And this is something that you don't always see when you're watching YouTube videos. They tell you this is what you're going to do. You're going to go in from the top stitch, but they don't always tell you what that stitch is. And this is called, when you're going in from the top stitch, it's a purl. When you're going in from the bottom, like we're going to do now, your yarn is to the back and you're going in from the bottom, that's a knit. So I'm going to knit the last 3 stitches here. Okay. Now I'm going to cast off. I'm going to end my piece so that I can show you. We're going to do it in knit. So you're going to, under the thing here, you're going to go under this and you're going to knit the second stitch. Now you're going to carry the first stitch, you're going to go underneath from the bottom, and you're going to carry it up and over that stitch right there. Okay? Let me show it to you again. Hopefully I'm doing it so you can see it properly. You're going to do your knit stitch, and then you're going to go under this stitch here. You're going to hold that. You're going to hold your tension tight on the back. You're holding your tight here, and you're going to slip that stitch over the top and off. Okay? This is called casting off. And you're going to do it all the way across. And what you're doing is you're removing your piece from your needles. Okay? Around, up. Now you're going to go under this stitch right here. Hold your tension snugly in the back, and then bring it forward and under. Okay? So let me speed up a little bit here so you can see how smoothly it goes. It's very different trying to knit while you're looking at the screen instead of the piece. So this is I'm a little clumsy here, but I'm going to show you how to do this. Hopefully this will solve your problem or make you understand a little bit more the nature of the fabrics that you're making. Which, and this is nothing against you, which is something that you don't always learn in the videos that you see on YouTube. Now, don't get me wrong, I like videos on YouTube because I've taught myself to crochet through YouTube, and so, I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's good, but a lot of times you don't get the little important things, the little nuances, okay? So, we're down to our last stitch here. This is going to be the last stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my, I'm right-handed, so let me change over here. We're going to cut our thread. I'm going to leave a tail here. Cut our thread. And then we're going to, okay, I'm going to loop it, remove your needle, and then take through and double loop it. Okay, you're making a knot. Okay, so that's gonna end your pattern. Now, here's what I wanted to show you. Okay, you see how your piece is curling here? Let's turn it around this way. This is the regular stockinette stitch, which is knit 1 row, purl 1 row. You're always going to get curling. Don't be upset. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just the nature of the fabric. If you're making a scarf and you are making it flat like this, you're not using a circular pattern, a circular needle or anything like that, you would want, the best way to fix the problem is to add a border, okay? So you'll see here, you can see here that the only reason it's starting to curl around the sides here is because the stockinette part down here that I've added is forcing it to. It's forcing it to curl around, okay? See how it's forcing that to curl? But you could see that this part here wants to lay flat. It's trying not to curl. Okay, it's puckering, but it's trying not to curl. So that's what you've done here. You've made that stable border on the outside. And it doesn't take away from the look of the scarf very much. I mean, you know, you're just going to have a border on the side, okay? And you're always going to have this curl here. In fact, one of the reasons why so many scarves you see have tassel on the bottom of them is to give it weight so that it doesn't curl like this. What you could do when you start your scarf is make 3 rows of all knit. So you knit, knit, knit the 3 rows. So the first row you would knit, the second row you would knit, third row you would knit. So you would knit a row. When you go to the purl side, you're still going to knit. And then when you come to the knit side, you're still going to knit. Okay? So you can make a border like that on the bottom as well as the border on the sides. Okay? But I don't want to confuse you too much, so I'm just telling you about using a border on the sides only first in your first project. You can to make it lay flat. Okay? So this is what you would do to fix your problem that you're having, is you would put a border of just knit, knit, knit